Hey guys, welcome back. This week we are going to be working on the EGT probes, getting those bungs welded into the exhaust header, and hopefully get all the wiring wrapped up on that. Last week we did wrap up on the wiring, so we got the main harness installed, got this all wrapped up, all the sensors plugged in. I gotta move this around, but everything looks pretty clean here. We've got the DTM connector there. I've got the two sensors ran to the sides here. This is for intake air temp and pre-map. So all of this is pretty much wrapped up. Throttle body, got our knock sensors, map sensor. Next we will be working on getting the EGT probe module wired up. So basically got to run some wiring through there. Originally I had it pulling out of this grommet with the O2 and everything, but I'm going to try to minimize that, have everything pull through the passenger side grommet, tucked away on the side. So for now, we're just going to pull the exhaust manifold. Before we do so, I actually have to mock up where I want the bungs, so that way they don't have any interference hitting the piping or anything like that. So I'll get underneath there, we'll mock up where we want to put the sensors, put a Sharpie mark on there, pull the header, put it up on the bench, and we'll start drilling and welding. Alright, so I've got the exhaust header out. I did mark a few spots where I want to basically weld these bungs, right here and right here. I do have my bungs here. Unfortunately, I spent the greater part of at least an hour and a half looking for the fourth one. I took the fourth one out to try to test fit a while ago, and quite honestly, I have no idea where I placed it. So I'm gonna have to order another one of those, which sucks, but it is what it is. We've got our 4 EGT probes here. We've got some covers. Part of the kit from Low Dollar Motorsports. I've got my Furic cup set here because we will be changing it out to a larger one since we're welding stainless steel. And then I've got the Tycon silicone purge kit. So we'll use that to plug the header here basically. For the bottom parts, I am going to tape these up so that way I can mount it to the table, keep everything flat, so I can drill that with no problem. So for now, we'll get started with that. I'll tape these up, use the bolts for the other flanges, use some clamps for the other side, and then we should be good to go. So again, we are taping this because when we back purge this, we don't want the argon to escape too much. We do want to have a hole somewhere so that way it can kind of push the oxygen out, but we want to control that. So I'll use this for that. Actually, I'm going to have to plug this one too. So, yeah, I'll probably inject the argon through here and then leave the EGT hole open. So that way that's what can kind of push the air out of. Something I am going to do is wipe down this header with acetone because as it gets hot, the fingerprints from your hands, your fingers, and the oils will get impregnated in the metal, and that's what's going to make it tarnish. So I'm going to wipe this down. So if you watch my other welding videos, I did mention that you need to make sure all of your cleaning materials are per material. So I've got one of these for aluminum. I've got a new one of these for the stainless. I'm just going to Sharpie these. You don't want to mix them because then you're contaminating the metal and it won't weld as nicely. So just keep that in mind. All right, so just a little bit of information. I've got the manifold taped up, plugged. I've got purging right now. I've got the BBW, which I think is like a number 14 ferrite cup. I've got 16th inch, 2% lanthanated gas lens. I've got the amperage set to about 75 right now. I've got a second of pre-flow, I think 10 seconds of post-flow. CFH for the gas is about 40, I believe, and then the purge is at 15. So I've got it purging, probably been close to about a minute now, should be good, so I'll pull off the tape, basically lay a few tack welds, and then I will start welding the first bung. This stuff really does move, and I kind of messed that up. I didn't tack all 4 edges. I should have done more than 2 tacks. So hopefully I can pull this back. Remember, the number 1 rule is to be comfy. Not bad. For my very first stainless steel bung, I did a little bit of dabbling with other stainless, but this is the first time actually welding stainless. It's definitely different than aluminum, but I would say it's more forgiving. I don't think I did half bad. So let me move on to the other side. This one's good, it should be sealed. We'll get the second one welded in, and then we'll put it back in the car, mark out the other side. Actually, you know what? I think I can do the third one because I left a mark there. So let me hop on the other side. This is the only side that I wiped it off on accident, and I only have 3 bungs anyways, so this should be okay. All right, so we got 4 tacks on here, so we should be good. That way it doesn't pull anymore. So let's get started.
Once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great. I like you, I can't wait. Our first time, our first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my...
Not bad. That turned out pretty good too. This stainless is a lot easier than aluminum. I was trying not to say it, but it really is. It came out beautiful. Like literally it looks just as good as these ETS welds. Let me get you in a little bit closer and we'll take a look. All right, so these are the factory, well I say factory, these are ETS welds on all of the couplers and whatnot. And this is my weld on the EGT bungs. That's pretty dang good. And hop on to the other side. This one got a little bit more hotter than the other side, but still it looks really good. I'm super happy with that. So we'll get this in the car. Actually, no, I got the other side that I can still drill right here. The reason why I waited to drill this hole is because I wanted to get the probe in here and then kind of get them lined up together. So we'll give it a couple of minutes, let this cool down, take the cap off, put the sensor in there, and then we'll line up this hole as we want it.
Heart erase, so catch me if I fall. I'm falling fast, sitting here praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap, I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast, don't remember life before you leave us back. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. Our first time, our first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight, don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase, so catch me if I fall.
Looks good. Oh. Well, I didn't plug these two, so I'm hoping that that was okay. Lesson learned on that one. We'll check the inside. I'm probably going to sand them anyways just to make sure there's no burrs. So hopefully we're okay. Alright guys, we are back. I did get the new bung. So just put a quick order in for that. Got a few other parts in as well. So hopefully we'll be able to get that one welded up today. Get the exhaust or the header back in the car. Finish up with the wiring of the EGTs. And get that pretty much wrapped up. I did create a temporary bracket 3D printed for the EGT module. So we'll get that where it needs to go. We'll get that wired up. And I'm hoping to also get the rest of the electronic power steering wiring done. I basically tidied up the harness for that for the rack, so we'll get that installed. I'll show you what that looks like, and I think that should wrap that up. Do have a few more things on order, mainly some bolts. The Allen head bolts that I have for the mounts for the DTM connectors are a little too tall, so it kind of pushes the sensor upwards. So I've got a couple of those coming from Amazon, so we'll replace what we've got, but for right now we'll run what we have and hopefully get this up and installed, get the EGTs plugged in. Alright guys, so we got the manifold back out and I was able to, I don't know if you can see that, grind down the insides of the runners so that way it's nice and smooth and we don't have any burrs on the inside. So now the EGTs can slide in nice and smooth. Some of these were a little on the tighter side, like that was a little bit more tight, but I was able to get those cleaned out so that way it goes in and out pretty smooth. You don't want any kind of binding on these for galling. I did rinse off the entire manifold, got all the shavings out of the inside of the runners so nothing goes into the turbo. So you'll see some of the water spots here. What I'm going to do now is use WD-40 on a rag and some gloves. If you don't know this trick, if you wipe down all of your exhaust parts with the WD-40, somehow when it gets up to operating temperature, the chemicals from WD-40 help turn all the piping gold. So again, the idea behind this is don't leave fingerprints on the exhaust pipes, as you're going to have the oils from your skins pretty much contaminating the metal when it gets up to operating temp. So I'll use the WD-40, wipe it all down, get the gaskets installed, get everything torqued down, and then we can start running the final placement for the EGT sensors themselves. Alright, so we did get the electronic power steering harness all wrapped up. So these are the two factory connectors, power and ground for this one. Well, main power and ground, and this is to turn on and then CAN bus, so 3 wires. So I've got this all sleeved up with 3/4 inch DR25. And then we've got this main power, and then we've got the ground that bolts to the frame. And then this is the 3-wire, 2 CAN, 1 power on. Everything's all nice and sleeved up. So we'll get this in the car, should go in pretty easily, and get it all wrapped up. Alright, so we got all the electronic power steering wires ran. We've got the turn on and CAN bus wires there. Everything kind of goes in behind the downpipe. Underneath I've got the shield back on, so that's good to go. All the wires are ran in behind. I don't know if you can see that down here. So everything is nice and tidy and organized and wrapped up. Alright guys, we are back on the next day. I did start the wiring on the EGT probes. I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly happy with what I have here. Basically the way this lines up is this goes to the passenger side and gets installed into the exhaust manifold. Goes up, I've got a connector that's mounted to the frame rail. This kind of plugs into, and then this side, this longer wire goes to the driver's side up by the core support, radiator core support. Gets zip tied to the frame and then goes to the other side, plugs in, basically to have another breakout for the driver's side EGTs. What I don't like about this is if I ever have to replace these sensors, it's all bundled into this harness, and when this is, you know, attached to the frame, I would have to remove all of that or depin this. So this took me a good amount of time because there's 4 wires in here, and the DR25 is already kind of small before you shrink onto it, so it's difficult to pass the wires through the center of this. But after further thinking, I'm going to redo a portion of this. I'm going to take this out and basically run this directly to the EGT module. So we've got that DTM 12 pin connector. We're going to run this to that, which goes to the driver's side, and then we're going to actually repurpose this to the passenger side. So we'll run it to the other side of this connector, and then I'll run a new driver's side wire, which will be bundled into this. So that way these longer wires basically become part of the chassis, and then this 8-pin becomes a 4-pin. So if I ever have to service the passenger side EGT bungs, just disconnect it. I've got only the tube sensors, and the same thing for the driver's side. So that way it remains serviceable. It keeps it nice, clean, and tidy. And then I don't have to worry about ever depinning these. These just stay in the chassis, and we're good to go. So I'm going to rework this harness, get this swapped over, and then we'll get that installed for final assembly, and we'll walk you guys through what that looks like. You guys, literally over 10 hours on this project, probably close to 3 days worth, straight alone for the EGT stuff. So I did all the wiring, I got all the bungs welded, I got the sensors installed, and I basically wired everything up so they're good to go. Let me take you through exactly what we did and then what the finished product looks like. So we got everything installed. The goal here is to basically make it look OEM plus, so you can't even tell that I've got it installed, and I think I did a great job. These wires still need to be hidden. These go to the alternator that I'm not using. I'm using my own wire, and then this goes to the AC compressor. Still got to tidy that up. But if we start over here, so we've got the EGT module here. I've created a bracket. This is out of plastic right now, but it is getting made out of metal, so that way I can replace this. But we've got 3 sensors here. We've got the 12 pin, we've got a 6 pin, and then we've got a 2 pin. Actually, I think this is 4 pin, not 6 pin. So the top one goes to all the EGT modules. So I've got 4, so that's 8 wires. I'm populating 8 pins out of the 12. This one here is for CAN bus and power and ground for the module. And this third one down here, the gray one, this is basically just a 120 ohm resistor. Anytime you're adding CAN bus stuff, if it doesn't have a terminating resistor built in, you basically have to terminate the end of the harness with a 120 ohm resistor. That way CAN bus communicates. Essentially what you're doing is just bridging the 2 CAN bus wires with a 120 ohm resistor, but this is built into the DTM connector, so it's just quick and easy. We've got all the wires coming out of the back, running through here, zip tied out of the way, going right into the factory boot. That is for the 2 CAN bus wires and the power and ground. This one here is for the O2 sensor that'll be hooked up into the downpipe. I haven't terminated that one yet, so it's kind of just resting there. So that kind of goes over the 2 bottom connectors. Top one comes down, is ran on the frame rail, zip tied around. So right here is the passenger side connector. So you can see there, I've got that mounted to the frame rail. The rest of it kind of continues down underneath the radiator with the EPS wire, comes up on this frame rail, and then gets mounted right there on the frame rail. So that kind of concludes the top wiring. Everything is nice and clean, zip tied to the frame, no loose wires, everything's good to go. Let's take a look at the underside. Alright, so for underneath, this is what the driver's side looks like. We've got the 2 bungs there. You'll see the Sharpie. Basically you got to measure how far these probes go into the exhaust. You want it pretty much dead center of the pipe. You don't want it touching the metal or not far enough in. And I measured it with some calipers and marked it out and tightened it there. So I've got some Insultherm. I think this is good for like 100 or 1200 degrees. This one here, more than enough room, not worried about any overheating issues. And then it basically comes right up here and connects. Passenger side, I've got it ran right here. Had to be pretty strategic with the bung placement, so that way it doesn't hit the V-band, but also allows me to still service it. So pretty happy with how that came out. I've got a little P-clip here that holds the harness, and then it basically comes up, ties right into that connector there. So everything is pretty much out of the way. I've got the power steering wires ran. All the EGT stuff came out perfect. So I'm really happy with that. So let's talk about what went well and what didn't go so well. Really happy with the welding on the bungs for the headers. I want to say 2 of the bungs that I welded in were in really tight spots, so I did the best that I could. And quite honestly, that's the first time that I actually welded stainless steel outside of the little test coupons that you can get from Amazon. Extremely happy with how that came out. I think the welds look very even and just, it looked great. Super happy with that. The wiring, so initially what I showed you guys, one of the harnesses that I had, it was for the passenger side. I basically had the 2 EGT probes into a 8-pin connector, and then I had the extension for the harness to go to the driver's side plugged into that connector as well. After further thinking of that, I really didn't like that, and the reason for that is if I ever need to service the passenger side or even the driver's side, well, I guess the driver's side would be fine, but the passenger side sensors, if I needed to replace 1 or 2 of those, you basically got to take the connector off, de-pin it, pull the body harness out of that 8-pin connector just so you can take the sensors out. You replace them, and then you get to repin it on the car, which is, it's really a nuisance. The ideal way to do that is to keep everything independent and serviceable, and that's kind of where we ended up. So I scrapped a little bit of DR25 wire. That material is expensive, but it is what it is. Again, I want everything perfect. I'm really OCD, so I didn't want to cut any corners. So I scrapped that, redid the harness, so that way each bank has 2 EGT probes, and they go into a 4-pin DTM connector. Keep it very serviceable, and that way I can just pull them in and out of the car, replace the sensors, and just plug them in, and Bob's your uncle. I have the chassis harness fixed and laid in the car permanently. Basically, they go directly all the way up to the EGT module, where that bracket that I made. That'll never have to come out. The only time that'll come out is if something happens, God forbid there's a fire, or the wires get cut. That's the only time that'll need to come out. So everything is loomed up with DR25. I've got heat shrink in there, got the boots. We're good to go. So really happy with how that came out. Took a lot longer, just because I had to remake the harness. Second issue that I ran into when I got the passenger side installed, I wanted to combine the wiring for the long driver side and the passenger side, so that way I had one loom go up to the 12-pin DTM connector on the frame rail. I ran out of DR25, the correct size. So originally I individually loomed each set of 4 wires, so that way I could just put another DR25 loom on top of that, keep it double insulated. Yes, it adds to the thickness, but it keeps everything individual and easy to identify. So if I ever need to depin that, they're all together, I don't have to test each wire. I didn't have the correct size. So I started unsheathing the wires, and they're twisted, so it's really tight. Ideally, you want the DR25 tight on the wires, so that way it's not as bulky. And I nicked one of the wires, so the whole harness had to come out. I'm a perfectionist. I had to remake that side. Luckily, it wasn't the long driver's side wiring, it was the shorter passenger side. Still, I had to use more material, but I got that fixed. Got them all sheathed exactly how I wanted it, so I joined all 8 wires, twisted those so they're nice and smooth and concentric. And then I put some 1/4-inch DR25 on there. I was installing it, and I was running really close to running out of the 1/4-inch DR25 that I used, but I ran with it. And when I started heat shrinking everything, the DR25 was short. So I had like maybe 6 inches of wire. Actually, no. So when I was individually doing the 4, it was short, and I was gonna run it together with 1/3/8 DR25, and I didn't have enough. So that's when I actually merged the 2 harnesses together, and then I had used the 1/4-inch. And I honestly, at that point, I cut maybe an extra 6 to 8 inches of wire just to be safe. But what I didn't account for is when you twist all the wires together, it shortens it up. So I was really worried that I wasn't gonna have enough wire length. And when I got it all terminated, I actually moved where I was gonna mount the wiring so I can kind of cut a little bit of the distance. I wasn't really happy with it, but I had to do what I had to do. I was actually getting everything final installation, started with the driver's side, zip tying everything to the frame rail underneath the radiator support, and then working towards that connector. And I'll tell you, if I couldn't be more exact, I actually was able to put the wire exactly where I wanted it, underneath the brake module. It's exactly where I wanted it. So by the grace of God, everything worked out. The wire was perfect. I had just enough strain relief at the connector, so that way I did the service loops. I started incorporating that into all my connectors, just so you have a little bit extra room, a little bit extra flexibility, but it came out perfect. It took a lot longer than I anticipated because I had to basically redo everything. I was able to get that exhaust manifold out, ground the inside, and for whatever reason, when I was welding it up, I don't know if it was the penetration that kind of got into the bore of where the sensor goes. I had to file the inside of that out, while still being very cautious to not sand or groove the where the compression fitting goes. If you mess that up, you're not gonna have a good seal and you'll have a permanent exhaust leak. So you had to be very delicate with that. I was able to get that all cleaned up exactly where I needed it to be, and it came out perfect. So I'm happy. The only thing we have left now is the downpipe and the O2 sensor, and then we can start putting fluids in. I've still got to get a base map loaded into this, and then we should be able to fire it up. My goal was to have this car running by the end of the month. Quite honestly, we'll be very close. If I can get the exhaust downpipe down and secure, I still got to make a new flange for the mounting of the catback. For whatever reason, the ETS one didn't mount up where I needed it to be, but quite honestly, that's all I've got left for fab work, and then we should be good to go. So appreciate you guys joining us again this week. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Could really appreciate the support. Noticed a little bit of growth uptick on the last couple of weeks, but if there's anything different that I can do, anything else that you guys are looking for, let me know. Happy to help teach you some of the more basics of whatever you guys want to see. So again, appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.